is you.
Yeah. That's one of those tough things where I kind of feel like I had this fictional character, um, but being first person, it has to be my voice, you know. So a major part of who he is reflects who I was at that age. I mean, just period. Unathletic, uh, a wanderer, a question. That was me at that age, um, and feeling the pressure. One of the things that I think is an implicit theme in the book that I don't think isn't pushed very hard is the fact that they're put into a situation where they don't get to just be kids. And I think I tried to put some moments in there where he's like, I just want to play. I just want to have some fun. And there's no opportunity. And despite this intense amount of freedom they don't have that opportunity. And I've already noticed in doing doing a read aloud with my kids, we're up to maybe chapter 4. That's one of the areas where I say, how can you identify with the main character? And a lot of them are saying, I do feel like the responsibility is heavy. I do feel like I don't have freedom. And a part of that is that side, I think, is where I'm different from the character. Because I think that when I was in middle school, unlike a lot of the students I have, I wasn't raising younger brothers or sisters, or I wasn't having to take on a construction job that's illegal, but I'm doing it on Saturdays. I wasn't working as a roofer on Saturdays or something. I wasn't. I didn't have to worry about parents being deported.
Sure.
I mean, so really, I lived in a little bit more of a bubble, and yet, where I think I'm most like the character is just all the insecurities, all of the sense of trying to figure out who I am and what I believe.
And that's the universal theme there. That's the universality of it.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, that's where I felt like I connected most with the character, the main character.
Okay. Gosh. So what's next for Gabriel Dunn?
Sorry.
It's all right.
I've had a cough for a while. I've really, I wrote the first book with the intention of it being one book. And then as I got into it, I really found a couple of themes I wanted to pursue a little more. The question of how the superpower treats the outsiders was a big theme. So I think I don't have necessarily a clear-cut plot line, but I do want to. I see this as being a trilogy, or maybe having 4 or 5 books. I'm not going to do 7, 8, 9. I'm not going to go crazy with it. But that's been a fun thing, is asking myself, where do I want to take this? I have little flickers where I go, oh, I think it'd be cool to have him watch his own life as a movie. Sitting in a movie theater and going, well, that's not at all how it was.
Yeah.
And seeing the difference between how we tell our stories to everybody versus what we actually see, I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a very cool concept to think about, especially with Twitter and Facebook and all the social media junk that's out there. It's almost like we are throwing our lives up on a screen.
Exactly. And that was kind of the fun area that I wanted to go with that. I also wanted to go with the notion of, look, what happens if one party really controls this thing and is really antagonistic toward the outsiders? And I kept that vague. Like my students automatically read that through the filter of immigration. Well, is this about the immigrants? No. I've internalized that message. I care about immigrants, but that's actually not. I mean, this is just the question of how a group that feels themselves to be victims and feels like they need to create this space for themselves, how they then treat those who are on the outside.
See, isn't that cool that I can totally laugh, and I can see, although I don't know your students, but I could see how my students also would look at the book through the filter of immigration and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that's awesome because, again, I'm pointing to the universality of it, but then also the students and other people can live vicariously through these characters, which I think these students are doing when they're reading these teen books. And the good thing about your book is it's going to really make them question and think about themselves and their relationship to the world, not just, oh, wow, I want to go on a mission and find things and, like Hunger Games, or I want to be a wizard, ooh, Yeah. So I really appreciated that about the book, is that vicarious universality living.
And I got to say, I mean, the part that was bizarre about the whole notion of outsiders, and again, we're only in chapter 4, so we're only quarter of the way through the book.
Sure.
But I had another student who interpreted that completely different, and that's what was fun. He thought that the superheroes, the whole superpower concept, was supposed to be a metaphor for the church.
That's great.
He thought this question of, look, all these people have power from God. All these people have been given this gift, and they're excluding the outside, and they're creating this island for themselves because they feel like there's the victims in the world is scary. And I just thought, wow, that wasn't even
what I was thinking at all.
Where I was going with it.
Yeah.
But again, he internalized it, and I was asking questions about church in a way that, I don't know, I definitely didn't write the book to have biblical, faith-based Christian themes, but again, it makes you wonder, how much does your own philosophy and faith trickle down into what you wrote? It's kind of fun.
Oh no, those are some really deep questions that we could probably spend a lot more time on. But I know you got to get back to your class and all that stuff. So, thanks. Is there anything you wanted to say about the book? Again, or anything that you want to tell your readers and all that good stuff?
Not too much. I guess I would just say, I want to say to you, thanks for doing this interview. I mean, this is really cool. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about the book to anybody, so
cool.
it's been pretty fun. And yeah, I guess the last thing that I would say would be, I really did try in the book to create a balance between having action, having plot, really trying to keep it engaging, but also having reflection and deeper thought. So if you're asking, like, what type of a student would this appeal to, it is kind of a broad group. I mean, I've noticed that students who are into action movies and that kind of stuff seem to like it, which surprised me a little bit, because
Sure.
I did think it was a little too slow for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the students who are kind of yearning for something that was a little bit deeper seemed to be into it.
Excellent.
The other thing that surprised me about audience is there doesn't seem to be a split between male-female. I mean, I definitely felt like I was writing a guy's book.
Sure.
But the girls liked it, and I was like, wow, this is surprising to me, because the main character is a boy, and it's superheroes. I mean, it just felt so male or something.
It's generally the male realm is superhero. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of saw the audience being this very narrowly defined group of geeks, and that wasn't who it was.
Sure.
Well,
sure.
no, I mean, and you know how this is. I don't know if you were when you were younger, but I liked comic books. I liked superheroes. I thought it was a cool idea. So I guess I would just say that as far as the audience.
Okay. As far as me and comic books, the deepest I went into comic books when I was in elementary, junior high, and high school would be Archie and Jughead.
Oh, really?
And I was indifferent about Superman. Well, I had Superman wallpaper when I was in elementary school, so I liked Superman. But for some reason, I never got into the comics, any of that. And then when I started teaching, I was at an inner city school in Anaheim, and that was what I could get my students to read and write and talk about. So I was really getting into comic books, and I really liked the premise and the concept of them, but I've just never been into them.
Yeah.
It's this weird sort of thing of, I think they're great, they have value, they're awesome. I want to really like them more than I do.
Yeah.
But then I'm just drawn to other things. I've always been drawn more into music. That's where my nerdery and geekery has always been. When I wasn't on the baseball field, I was a big baseball player. So
Yeah. Well, what's funny is when I was a kid, I liked comic books, but I think I was always disappointed by, like, some of them had some ambiguity. Like I saw, like, I thought the X-Men series did a good job kind of blending, and or certain Spider-Man ones that the villains would be at least a little bit more understandable or something.
Sure.
But I was always disappointed by the lack of personal, like, it always felt like you should know them personally a little bit better.
Sure.
I got to answer the phone real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
But here, let me answer.
Okay.